Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, for today, our topic is on the property available for payment of debt. Yeah? So if you look at your goals, it's available in here. So saya baru masukkan saja sebenarnya. Sebelum ni, it's part of the yang proceeding consequent to bankruptcy order. Kita dah belajar kan tajuk proceeding consequent to bankruptcy order. Dan part of it is we talk about macam sikit saja masa tu kita talk about the property which is available for payment of debt. So we will continue with the topic today. Yeah? So only that one for today. Okay, saya share the slides here. Kita tengok slides ni. So which you will be able to refer later. Yeah? Okay, so this is the content of the slides. Kita ada 12 slides today. Kita tengok. Saya besarkan lah ya. Okay. So remember when a bankruptcy order, so this is the process basically consequent to bankruptcy order being made against a debtor. Yeah? Okay, so remember under section 8, subsection 1B, yeah, on the making of the bankruptcy order. Yeah, all the property of the bankrupt shall become divisible. Divisible can be divided from the word divide. Yeah, can be divisible, is divisible, ataupun may be able to be divided. Yeah, among his creditors. Yeah, and shall vest in the DJI. Vest tu macam dia serah secara automatik. Yeah, vest in the DJI. And the DGI shall be the receiver, yeah, manager, administrator and trustee of all properties of the bankrupt. Yeah, so that's the effect of the bankruptcy order. So once the court order a person as bankrupt, so all of his property macam dia macam automatic transfer lah, macam automatically transferred to the DJI. So the question is it all of the property? So macam mana dia nak makan, dia nak tidur, nak apa rumah apa semua kan? Okay, so this is the question now. One always wonder whether all of the properties of the bankrupt will vest to the DJI. Okay, so basic rule is that they are all of the properties. Yeah, all of the properties of the bankrupt person will vest in the DJI. Yeah, tapi dia ada exception to the general rule. So kita tengok dekat sini, yeah, property which are available for payment of debt. Yeah, so the first one dalam this is under section 48, subsection 1, paragraph A and B. Yeah, so they divide into two. That is the property that does not pass to the DJI. So this is the exception to the general rule. Okay, that is the first one is the property which is held on trust, yeah, for any other person. Yeah, so for example, if the debtor is holding property on trust, mungkin dia jaga rumah anak yatim, for example. Yeah, so under mungkin ada satu yayasan, for example, which is which give the property to the debtor for him to take care of, yeah, for other person. Yeah, yang tu such a property does not pass to the DGI. Okay, then second one is the tool of trade or and essentials, yeah, of the person. Yeah, this is it. Kalau kita tengok jumlah kat sini agak kecil lah ya. So kita tengok kat sini the tool of trade, for example, if he has a business, so all of the tool of trade for him which he used for his business will continue to remain with him, yeah, the debtor. Okay, and then his essential as well will also remain with the debtor. That is the necessary wearing apparel. Yeah, dia punya clothing mungkin belong to the family as well, and bedding and other necessities of the bankrupt, wife and children to values not exceeding 5,000 ringgit. Yeah, so the amount is quite macam small. Yeah, so this is this is at the discretion of the officers of the insolvency department to determine the macam the values of the items which are necessaries for the bankrupt. Okay, so these are the property that will not pass to the DGI at the point of the time that the bankruptcy order is made against the debtor. Okay, so that is one. So this is for the debtor to continue living lah, to mungkin the tool of trade is for him to continue the business so that he is able to make income, yeah, for his necessities. Okay, and then that is the first one. The second one is that the property that passed to the DGI. Yeah, so it comes to the general rule that all other property except yang comes under paragraph A, it will belong to or vested in the bankrupt at all property which belong to or vested in the bankrupt at the time of the act of bankruptcy is committed. So that means any property which is held by the bankrupt person at the point of time of the act of bankruptcy has been committed. So contoh kalau macam kita guna bankruptcy notice has been served to the debtor on 1st of June, for example. Okay, and then 7 days after that, if the debtor has not paid the judgment sum, yeah, requested by the bankruptcy notice, then an act of bankruptcy has been committed. Okay, so when the bankruptcy order has been adjudged against him, all of the property which is held by the bankrupt at the point of time, masa yang tarikh 8 hari bulan tadi kan, selepas serahan bankruptcy notice dibuat, so the date when an act of bankruptcy has been committed, all of the property which is held by the bankrupt will vest to the DJI. Okay, boleh? Okay, that is the first one. Okay, and then another status of the ataupun another position of the property is that all of the property which is acquired by the bankrupt between the commencement of the bankruptcy order and the date of discharge. Yeah? Mungkin a person has been adjudged bankrupt mungkin hari ni 10 hari bulan. Hari ni 10 hari, 11 hari bulan ya hari ni? 10 hari bulan, okay. Okay, contoh dia declare bankrupt hari ni. Okay, so any property which is acquired by him today, mungkin dapat gaji, mungkin hasil jualan, for example, mungkin any profit that he got from the macam selling of shares, for example. Okay, so all of the property which is acquired from the date of the bankruptcy order up to the date of discharge from the bankruptcy order tu nanti, ya, kemudian kita akan belajar tentang discharge of the bankruptcy order. So at those properties will also vest to the DGI. Okay, so dia macam sebelum dan selepas lah. Sebelum bankruptcy order dan selepas bankruptcy order is made against the debtor, all properties belonging to the bankrupt person will vest to the DGI. Okay, and then apart from the property, the second one here, right and power over property which will accrue in favor of the bankrupt at the commencement of the bankruptcy or before discharge. Okay, for example, mungkin on the part of the bankrupt person tu, dia ada juga orang yang berhutang dengan dia, ya. Mungkin ada orang pinjam dia duit dalam mungkin berapa 10,000 ringgit, for example. Okay, and then the person, maksudnya debtor yang lain lah, ya, and then the debtor now is a creditor lah. So in that situation, the debtor has right, the debtor yang ada macam ada orang lain yang berhutang kan, contohnya debtor is A, and then B is the another person who owed money to the A, to A. Okay, in that situation, B is a debtor to A. Yeah? Okay, and then A here may sue B in order to get his money back. So that is capacity to take proceeding against B. Okay, so in that situation, the right against to take proceeding here also will vest to the DGI. Yeah, okay, so it's considered as right and power over property. Yeah. Okay, that is the second one. The third one is the property under the reputed ownership. Okay, this require further explanation. Yeah, what is the property which is under reputed ownership? So this is the content of the section 48 subsection 1B. Okay, so we look at what is the property which is under the reputed ownership. Okay, dia is part macam of the doctrine under the bankruptcy laws. Ya, dia kata the property under doctrine of reputed ownership. So these goods being at the commencement of the bankruptcy proceeding tu are in the possession, order or disposition of the bankrupt by the consent and permission of the true owner. Okay, so basically the goods kat sini barang lah, property. Macam barang under hire purchase, ya, barang under goods any under lease, for example, contoh macam kalau under hire purchase, the principle under the law is that any goods which you get under hire purchase transaction belongs to the hirer. Contoh kalau macam kita beli kereta kan, kita akan selalunya orang akan ambil loan daripada bank. Dia punya term tu orang biasa akan panggil loan. Tapi transaction dia selalunya adalah dalam bentuk hire purchase transaction, sewa beli. So dalam transaction for hire purchase, so under the law, the bank is considered as the hirer. Hirer, that is the person who the bank is the owner of the item, yeah, the car. Okay, and then the person who buy the car, contohnya kita ada kereta yang kita masih bayar dekat bank tu, so we are considered as the hirer. So in that situation, we do not own the car until the last installment is made, yeah, to the bank. Okay, so at that point of time, the ownership will be transferred to the hirer. So bila habis installment tu, barulah pembeli kereta tu, yang kita panggil pembeli tu, considered as the true owner of it. Yeah? So within the timing of the macam installment, the payment of the installment tu, the true owner under the law is the bank. Yeah. Okay. So this is an example of a property which is under the doctrine of reputed ownership. Okay, generally under the law of bankruptcy, the property which is held by the bankrupt under reputed ownership is considered as vested to the DGI upon the commencement of bankruptcy. Okay, you got it? Kita tengok example after this, ya. Kita tengok yang ni, ya. Okay, basic idea, the goods are in the possession of the bankrupt, the bankrupt person. Debtor, pada awalnya kita panggil dia debtor, tapi bila bankruptcy order has been given against the debtor, so the person tu kita refer to as the bankrupt, bankrupt person. Okay, so this is kita baca ayat ni, ya, i.e. the goods should be in the possession or control of the bankrupt. Maksudnya dalam pemilikan dia, ya. In the course of his trade or business, that they should be in his possession under such circumstances to show that the bankrupt is the reputed owner. Yeah? So any goods which are in the possession of the bankrupt is deemed as belonging to the person. Yeah? That is the bankrupt. Yeah? Walaupun barang tu bukan dia punya. Yeah? However, it is within the possession of the bankrupt person with the consent of the owner. So contoh tadi yang hire purchase tadilah, ya. Yeah? So bank kereta tu, barang tu belong to the bank. Okay, so he consented for the items for the car tu to be possessed by the debtor, by the bankrupt here. Okay, so generally under the law, the such goods which is within the possession of the bankrupt will vest to the DGI. So DGI has right to take over the property. Yeah. Okay, so yang ni dia punya konsep. Yeah, kita tengok example, yeah, by looking at cases. Yeah. Okay, for example, property on hire purchase. Yeah, ni zaman yang awal-awal dulu ada typewriter. Siapa yang pernah tengok typewriter, atau if you've never come across with any typewriter in your life? Sebab yang typewriter, tapi masa zaman saya study dulu ke tahun berapa 1997 first year kan di university, so we still use typewriter and it was macam very quick, macam within 1 or 2 years macam it's a transition from typewriter to the computer, yeah. Okay, so in this case, 1926, Ri Ong Bun Lam, so dia punya fokus dekat sini is, the court says, kita ambil dia punya ruling sajalah, so the typewriter, which is under hire purchase, form part of the asset of the bankrupt. Okay, so you see here the typewriter is under hire purchase, so that means the bankrupt person is the hirer of the typewriter. Okay, in such a situation, because of the provision under the Insolvency Act here, so it will pass to the official assignee. Official assignee ni insolvency department lah, Okay, so that is the first case. So the second case is property which reflect the position of the property under lease. Lease tu sewa jangka panjang, so you may have learned this in your land law kan. So dia sama dengan tenancy. Tenancy is commonly dia punya timing tu is 3 years. Kalau macam rumah contohnya sewaan, lease tu macam sewaan jangka panjang, which is more than 3 years. Okay, so lease macam kalau tanah for example ataupun rumah, ataupun mungkin ada macam industri punya premise, so lease must be registered in the land office. Okay, so it's a kind of a transaction in which a person macam people dia macam sewakan jugalah barang tu, okay, and then the payment for the rent will be paid. Okay, what happened in this case? We look at this case. The name of the case is Hong Leong Finance Berhad and Datang Jadi Industri Berhad. So the citation is in your manual. Okay, so the respondent was the landlord of a warehouse, gudang warehouse. Okay, they obtain respondent kat sini Datang Jadi Industri lah, Okay, so he was the landlord of a warehouse. So they obtained a warrant of distress against the tenant of the premises for areas of rent. Okay, the goods found in the warehouse were seized. The goods were in the form of machinery. Ada mesin yang besar-besar dekat warehouse tu. So the appellants were the owners of some of the machine distrain yang apparently bank ni, Hong Leong Finance Berhad tu, dia leasekan barang tu kepada tenant of the warehouse. So do you see the connection there? So the appellants were the owners of some of the machine distrain which were leased to the tenant. Okay, so the tenant was at judge bankrupt. So the issue is about the goods which was found in the warehouse, whether it belonged to the DGI when the tenant was at judge bankrupt. Okay, and then the appellants was had terminated the agreement and asked that the goods to be delivered to them forthwith, but they had taken no positive step to repossess the goods. So this is the macam a sort of mistake on the part of the appellant. So once they have terminated the agreement, so they have the lease agreement tadilah, the lease agreement of the goods to the tenant. So they under the law they have responsibility to take positive macam step to repossess the goods. Dia kena pergi ambil lah dalam keadaan tu. Kalau orang tak pulangkan, dia kena dia ada macam positive duties under the law to repossess the goods. Okay, so later on, dia macam takes more than 6 months actually for the appellants to take action to repossess the goods. So in this case, the appellant applied for the release of the goods. Yang bank ni tadi. So dia nak minta balik lah barang tu. So because the goods essentially under the law has vested in the DJI. Okay, in this case, the application was dismissed in the High Court and affirmed upon appeal. Okay, so the court considered, so basically it's at the discretion of the insolvency department as to whether to release the goods under the possession of the tenants which are under reputed ownership. Okay, in such a situation, as the appellants have taken a long time actually, if you look at the judgment, so the appellants have taken a long time in order to take positive action to repossess the goods. So the court considered this as a sort of mistake on the part of the appellant. Okay, so the court macam apply the general position of the law that the goods vested in the DJI. Yeah, so rejected the ataupun dismissed the application by the by the appellant here. Yeah. Okay, so this is the application of the principle ataupun rules that the any property which is under reputed ownership will belong to the DJI upon the commencement of the bankruptcy. Yeah. Okay, so there are other list of cases as well. I would like you to read the cases later on. Apa yang tu ada dalam manual. Nanti saya share yang full writing about it. Okay. Ada sikit explanation about this. Generally, goods under hire purchase do not pass to the DJI until the last installment is paid. Yeah. Okay, so basically, when the DJI knows that certain property is under hire purchase, so they may exercise three options. Yeah? One, they can return the goods and cease to pay further installment, that is return the goods to the owner, yang true owner of the goods. Okay, and then if the estate has, estate to means the property of the debtor, the bankrupt person. So if the estate has sufficient money, the DJI can continue to pay the installment and take the goods. Yeah? So the goods will continue to remain with the DJI. Okay, and then the third one is that the DJI can exercise the rights of the bankrupt by assigning the interest to the third party. Yeah? So, for example, if machinery, they are the value for business, so they can assign the interest of the property to another person who has, who may use it, okay, and then pay money to the estate of the bankrupt person. Yeah? Okay, so this is the situation which is commonly faced by the DJI when certain goods is under hire purchase. Okay, any question relating to relating to the reputed ownership. Saya tengok chat ni, ada soalan tak? Mana saya punya ni? Saya tutup yang ni banyak sangat. Ada soalan tak? Oh, sorry. Mana saya punya? Saya punya team dekat sini. Dia tak ada dekat bawah ni. Okay, any question? Saya tengok chat, saya cari chat sebenarnya. Okay, tak ada soalan ya. So is it good?
Doctor. Can you please enlighten what is the rationale of having this reputed ownership actually?
Okay, so generally goods which are under possession of the debtor, the bankrupt person, so commonly they are macam mungkin bila insolvency department officers comes to the premise of the bankrupt person, so there are so many goods kan mungkin dalam dia punya mungkin kilang contohnya, yes. So generally any property which is within the possession of the debtor will vest to the DJI. Okay, so if it is proven ataupun proven to be that it belong to someone else, then the DJI can exercise the discretion in order to return back the property to the true owners. So this is basically macam saya rasa macam is a bit macam stringent juga. I think is to there are macam common situation in which macam the person faced with bankruptcy proceeding will attempt to macam transfer dia punya property. So in order to protect the creditors, mainly to protect the creditors so that they still got the macam property of the bankrupt in order for the to be made for the repayment of the debt. So in such a situation, mungkin the law is made more stringent, so that any property which belong to the bankrupt person will also vest to the DJI. Yeah, so the law dia taklah macam is not a bar to the true owner to exercise the rights under the law. So they can do so, but it must be done within the macam reasonable time, within contoh macam kes yang datang jadi tadi. So the problem with the situation is that the true owners does not take positive action in order to repossess the items. So if they do so, macam within reasonable time, so then the macam within quite a short time, macam dia tak boleh lama sangat. Macam kalau dalam kes tu is more than 6 months, the court said. So if it is exercised within certain time period, so they are entitled to their own property. Yeah? So the rights and interests of the true owners are also protected by the law, and at the same time is the law, I think, attempt to protect the rights of the creditors to the debtor as well. Yeah, so what I can say for the reason for such a maybe the role to the law of bankruptcy upon commencement of bankruptcy.
Okay, Doktor. Faham.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so shall we proceed? Ada kes yang lain, saya nak minta baca kes tu kemudian, ya. So kita tengok another situation, ya, that is the property which belong to the bankrupt may also vest to the DJI. Yeah? So another situation is what they call it as the doctrine of relation back. Yeah? So kita tengok this is macam quite macam it's not really straightforward here. Yeah. So we look at this. So this is another situation in which the DGI may also have ownership over the property of the bankrupt, even though the property has been transferred to someone else. Yeah, within certain timing. Yeah? Kita tengok yang ni. Okay, so the name of the principle ataupun the doctrine is the doctrine of relation back. Ya, kita tengok apa relate ke mana. Ya. So this is an integral part of the bankruptcy code in that it has a far-reaching effect and consequence on the bankruptcy dealing, property, transaction in the past, and any availability of an act of bankruptcy. Ya. So the DGI's title to interest ataupun dia punya macam sort of ownership lah, ya, over the bankrupt's property, ya, commences from the date of the first act of bankruptcy committed within 6 months before the presentation of the petition. Okay, you can see dia punya timing tu 6 months before the presentation of the petition. Bukan sahaja daripada tarikh bankruptcy order, but before the presentation of the petition. So any act of bankruptcy which is committed before the presentation of the petition may trigger the doctrine of relation back to apply. Ya. Kita tengok apa dia punya provision dulu. Ya. This is under section 47 subsection 1. Ya. So it says, panjang sikit lah, ya. Kita tengok dulu sebelum kita tengok dia punya explanation. Okay, under the section it says the bankruptcy of a debtor, ya, whether the same takes place on the debtor's own petition or upon that of a creditor. So remember dia ada dua jenis kan, satu the debtor's petition, another one is the creditor's petition. So they work similarly for both kind of petition. So yang ayat yang main tu saya boldkan dekat sini. Okay, the bankruptcy of a debtor shall be deemed to have relation back to and commence at the time of the act of bankruptcy being committed, on which a bankruptcy order is made against him. Okay, so on our situation yang kita buat, kita punya proceeding tu, so the act of bankruptcy, yang ni kena kefahaman kita tentang apa itu act of bankruptcy. Remember section 3 subsection 1, dia ada daripada A sampai ke J kan. Okay, ada 9 act of bankruptcy. Okay, so untuk yang situation kita tu, the act of bankruptcy has been committed by the debtor tu upon the failure to comply with the bankruptcy notice. Okay, so there are also ada situation of act of bankruptcy. Contohnya macam kalau kita tengok yang A, dia conveyance of property. A sampai C kan is about conveyance of property. So this is commonly what is the situation that which doctrine of relation back applies. Okay, for example, under section 3 subsection 1 paragraph A, if for example a petition has been filed in the court based on paragraph A, that is a conveyance is made, a conveyance of property is made by the debtor to another person. Okay, yang kat sini to a trustee in general. So in that situation, if you remember, kalau ada substantial conveyance of property, to a trustee in order to deal with the property of the debtor, so it amounts to an act of bankruptcy. Okay, so any conveyance of the property tu, kalau property tu has been conveyance tu can be in the form of transfer lah, selalunya in the form of transfer. It has been transferred to another party. Mungkin dia jual dia punya rumah, jual rumah dekat wife dia ataupun anak dia ataupun adik-beradik dia. Okay, in that situation, the bankruptcy order will have effect upon that transfer as well. Okay, so that is what the doctrine of relation back. Dia relate back to the transfer, of which has taken place. Kalau dia jadi macam reason for the filing of the petition, ataupun kalau ianya bukan jadi reason kepada filing of the petition, the transfer is made within certain time period, which is provided by the law dekat sini lah. Yang ni yang second paragraph kat sini. Okay, so yang ni yang first part of the subsection 1 to section 47. Okay, second part, this is the situation when, kita baca ayat ni, so if the bankrupt is proved to have committed more acts of bankruptcy, then one. So macam yang pertama ni, kalau ada satu act of bankruptcy and then we file the petition. Okay, tapi if they are more than one act of bankruptcy, mungkin ada 3, ada 4 transfer has been made. Okay, the bankruptcy itu will have relation back to and commence at the time of the first act of bankruptcy, proved to have been committed by the bankrupt within 6 months next preceding the date of the presentation of the bankruptcy petition. Okay, yang ni yang tempoh 6 bulan tu. Jadi apa-apa sahaja conveyance, mungkin yang dalam section 3 subsection 1A, A tu conveyance to a trustee, B tu conveyance which is fraudulent in nature, and then C tu is the conveyance which is dia macam is macam amounting to fraudulent preference, mungkin conveyance of property to pay certain creditors, which is preferred by the debtor, amounting to fraudulent preference. Okay, so in such a situation, kalau ada 3 contohnya transfer has been made within 6 months of before the presentation of the bankruptcy petition, so the effect of the bankruptcy order will also relate back to those transfer ataupun transaction. Okay, yang tu dia punya doctrine of relation back. So dia punya effect tu kita tengok later, Okay, in determining whether a particular property of the bankrupt is available for distribution, Yeah, the bankruptcy is deemed to have related back and commenced at the time of the commission of the AOB, Act of Bankruptcy, on which the bankruptcy order is made against him. So maksudnya apa-apa property yang dia ada pada masa tu, ya, sebelum masa yang dalam tempoh 6 months masa act of bankruptcy has been committed tu, those property will belong to the DJI as well. Yeah? Okay, so if more than one AOB was committed, the bankruptcy will be deemed to commence at the time of the commission of the first AOB within 6 months from the presentation of the bankruptcy petition. So this is explanation to section 47. Yeah? So this is macam again to protect the creditors. Yeah? So it's a macam quite common situation for the person who is faced with the bankruptcy proceeding to transfer his property. Yeah? To avoid the property from being vested to the DJI. So that is commonly to protect the rights of the creditors. Ya, sebab tu bila bankrupt orang selalunya tak ada harta dah, sebabnya dia dah start dah, bila dia tahu dah mungkin dia dah tak boleh bayar hutang, semua harta yang dia ada, rumah dia, tanah dia, apa semua dia transfer. Yeah. So to avoid this situation, tapi the law put cut-off date that is within 6 months from the presentation of the bankruptcy petition, those property will vest at the DJI as well. Yeah. So kita tengok case, in order to understand this better. So dia ada banyak case juga yang ni. Kita untuk lecture ni kita tengok dua je. Okay, the first case is Rihorbaki. So banyak case ni kita dah tengok sebenarnya dalam kita punya discussion of Act of Bankruptcy. Ya, kita boleh tengok semua case yang sama lah. Ya. Okay, in this case, Rihorbaki, 4 months before the debtor was adjudged bankrupt. So dia punya cut-off date is important here. Ya. 4 months before adjudication of bankruptcy, he sold his interest in a piece of land to his wife for $100. Zaman ni guna dollars lagi lah. Ya. So the wife sold it to a third party. Yeah, so macam bila ada transaction to a person who is macam relative to the debtor, then it trigger one macam fraudulent punya intention. Yeah. So the wife then sold it to a third party 2 months after the bankruptcy for $240. Yeah. So the interest in the land was purchased by the bankruptcy 20 years before that for $420. So see the difference of the values here. Yeah, the purchase price, it should not be the case. Yeah, sebab jumlah tu rendah sangat. Yeah. So the 20 years before it was $420. So the market price must be much higher than that. Yeah. Okay, so this is another situation which may trigger fraudulent intention as well, ataupun may reflect ataupun we can assume that there is a fraudulent intention on the part of the debtor. So on the official assignee's application, kalau sekarang dia panggil insolvency department lah, so the court set aside the 2 conveyances declaring them to be fraudulent and void against the official assignee. So yang fraudulent transaction ataupun conveyance is under section 3 subsection 1 paragraph B. So it amounts to an act of bankruptcy. Yeah. Okay, sebab tu saya kata macam kefahaman tentang act of bankruptcy is important here, for you to understand this. So it amounts to an act of bankruptcy. So in this case the court ruled that it is fraudulent conveyance. Okay, therefore it is void. So remember, bila transaction is void, so what is the implication of it? So any benefit which has been given under the transaction will be returned. Macam patah balik lah, kalau price tu has been paid by the purchaser tu, so maksudnya duit tu kena patah balik dekat dia. So yang harta tu tadi patah balik dekat pemilik tu, that is the bankrupt person, the debtor at that time. So in such a situation, the property belong to the debtor, remain lah to belong to the debtor, and then it will vest to the official assignee. Okay. So dekat sini, the principle of relation back applies. So in which the bankruptcy was deemed to have related back to and commenced at the time of the fraudulent conveyance of the land from the bankrupt to his wife. Yeah? So as the first conveyance was void, the wife did not have any rightful title to give effect to the second conveyance. Yeah? So the the rule applies sebab yang those who have no rights to certain things has no right to transfer kan. Okay, so in such a situation, the second conveyance transfer here was also void. Okay, so the implication of a void contract applies here. Okay, so this is the application of the doctrine of relation back under the law of bankruptcy upon commencement of bankruptcy. Bankruptcy order against a person. Okay, so this is another case. Yeah, boleh follow tak setakat ni? Dia sebenarnya sama case dia dengan case-case yang bawah Act of Bankruptcy under A to C. Yeah. Okay, kita tengok second case. Ya. Nanti saya nak minta baca case yang lain lagi for you to understand better as to how it works. Ya. Okay, another case, official assignee Koh Tong Chuan. Jadi, if I'm not mistaken, saya bagi citation tu dalam manual dalam tahun 1967. Ya. So, in this case, ya, yang ni is a famous person jugalah, orang kaya Malaysia lah. Ya. So, in less than 6 months before a creditor's petition was presented against the debtor, he sold a property to his son. Another conveyance lah dekat sini, bila dia jual property is a conveyance, is a transaction made. Okay, he sold a property to his son. Okay, so close relative, ya, anak dia lah. Yeah. So the value is 1,000 ringgit. Yeah. So the official assignee brought an action against him, yeah, to recover the property. The official assignee argued, him ni the son tu, anak tu tadi. Yeah. The official assignee argued that the transfer was void under Section 47 and or Section 52 of the Bankruptcy Act 1967. Yeah. Sekarang kita bercakap tentang Section 47 lah. Yeah. It was also argued that the charges subsequently created over the land were void under Section 53 of the Act. Yeah. So yang ni part of the implication of Section 47, and the property was deemed to be a property of the official assignee under Section 53 of the Act. Thus, the official assignee argued that he is entitled to recover the property from the chargee, who is a second defendant in this case. Okay, so in this case, the doctrine of relation back applies. So in which the court held that the conveyance was void. Therefore, the conveyance was fraudulent. And then the court agreed with the official assignee that they are entitled to recover the property from the chargee, that is the third party in this case. Yeah. Okay, proper case nanti boleh baca dalam dalam manual tu ada. Okay, any question?
Madam, kiranya apa yang saya faham daripada doctrine of relation back ni, dia apply kan sesuatu doktrin kepada transfer lama yang masa 6 bulan tu before bankruptcy order. Betul ke?
Dia 6 bulan before presentation of the petition. Presentation tu maksudnya filing of the petition.
Oh, I see. Dia akan effect doktrin ni, dia akan jadikan semua transfer tu void. Macam tu kan?
Tapi dia tak work automatically. Dia kena upon adjudication by the court. That is macam the DJI, the insolvency officer has right to bring proceeding against the the person who is macam whoever has the property tu untuk recover the property. In such a situation, doctrine of relation back tu will apply. Dia bukan automatic. Macam repeated ownership tu automatic.
Oh, I see. So kena apply by DGI lah baru boleh dikira
untuk recover.
the effect.
That's right. Sebab conveyance of property tu dia akan transfer property. Property tu maksudnya bila dia dah transfer, then nama geran tu dah tukar nama apa semua kan. Okay, in such situation the DJI will have to get the order of the court untuk declare that the property belong to the DJI. Sebab dia punya conveyance tu dia kena prove lah conveyance tu is fraudulent kan. Bila kita baca case kita boleh tengok dia punya application of the rules lah. So basic idea is that the DGI punya officer need to bring an action to the court in order to prove that the conveyance is fraudulent, and then the effect is that it is void, and then the property will return back to the bankrupt person. So bila dia return back to the bankrupt person, barulah dia automatically vest to the DJI. Betul Wafi?
Oh, okay. Thank you, madam.
Okay, you're welcome. Alright, so boleh follow. Saya nak minta baca part ni. Ya, saya akan letakkan satu ada part of notes yang saya ada part of it dalam manual tu juga, tapi manual tu banyak saya letak nama case saja kan. Okay, yang ni saya nak minta baca as part of the tutorial for this week. Boleh?
Boleh.
Okay, so I think that's it for today. Yeah. So malam nanti kita akan ada kelas dengan Cik Azmi kan, 1 hour. So saya cakap dengan dia 1 hour lah, pukul 8 sampai pukul 9. Okay. So that will be another part of the lecture kita lah. Yeah. So the topic would be macam how to conduct hearing for macam application to set aside the bankruptcy notice. Yeah, so it's part of macam topik yang dia bagi sebelum ni. Nanti saya minta dia habiskan lah topik tu. Okay, so saya harap semua hadir ya. Kita punya attendance ada tak hari ni? Berapa orang hari ni? Okay, 90.
Doktor.
Yeah.
I have question. Kiranya these two doctrine of reputed ownership and doctrine of relation back, dia macam mechanism to ensure that the debtor ni tak larikan diri daripada instead of dia, maksud saya macam untuk pastikan si debtor ni tak, ya, macam tadi dia kan doktor kata the normal practice is bila orang tu dah tahu dia akan bankrupt, dia akan transfer dia punya property tu semua. So these two doctrines yang akan pastikan benda tu tak akan berlaku, is it?
Yeah, I think I agree to that. So it is to ensure that the law of bankruptcy that is not frustrated by the act of the bankrupt person.
Okay.
That is the main idea is to protect the creditors.
Okay,
Madam, nak tanya, biasanya benda-benda macam ni dekat yang property besar-besar je ke? Ke DJI akan cari sampai macam benda-benda yang macam mana?
Kecil-kecil, apa dia
macam motor-motor lama ke, barang-barang yang dijual lah macam tu, faham tak maksud saya? Ada value tapi kita tak perasan pun.
Okay, macam ada lagi. Okay, semester lepas dah 2 semester sebenarnya kita jemput pegawai daripada insolvency department untuk macam explain lah jugalah cara macam mana proses tu dibuat untuk cari harta tu lah, investigate the property of the debtor tu. So basically dia kata biasanya dia discretion of the macam pegawai tu sendiri sama ada harta tu macam dia rasa boleh jual ke tak. Bila contohnya macam kalau dia pergi ke satu rumah of the bankrupt person, so dia akan tengok macam ada furniture. Kalau furniture yang elok-elok dia rasa ada harga tu dia ambil lah. Kalau macam furniture yang dia kata macam lama-lama mungkin tak ada harga tu, dia rasa macam susah nak jual contohnya. So in that situation dia tak ambil. So it depends on the discretion of the officers. Ialah officers tu under training jugalah to know whether certain property has value or not. Okay, so commonly it will dia akan tengok sama ada property tu ada value atau tidak. Dia tak adalah ambil saja-saja macam contohnya macam mungkin barang yang too old macam nak dispose of pun akan jadi liability kepada insolvency department, so they won't take it. Macam contoh tanah juga ada areas yang tanah ataupun bangunan yang memang tak ada, orang kata walaupun nampak macam ada harga kan, tapi macam mungkin timing, mungkin kawasan tu macam memang orang tak beli contohnya. Dia kata macam kalau ambil barang tu macam akan jadi liability to the insolvency department, so they won't take it. So it depends on I think from the explanation, I think it depends on the discretion of them to see whether the property has value or not and whether it can be disposed of. Macam dia ada orang nak beli ke tak. Kalau contohnya barang-barang yang macam perlu nak repair, mungkin ada machinery yang rosak dan perlu repair, banyak duit nak guna untuk repair, so they commonly won't take it. Okay, so do I answer your question, Wafi? Yang tu daripada yang tu information yang saya dapat daripada lecture yang diberi oleh pegawai insolvency sebelum ni lah. So mungkin semester ni kita tak ada peluang lah untuk jemput insolvency department officers to give you lecture. Mungkin because of the timing juga lah. Alright, thank you Wafi. So any other question before we end the lecture? Tak ada. Yeah, okay. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have any issue, you're welcome. If you have any issues with the preparation of the assignment, please let me know. Ya, mungkin saya terfikir juga kalau ada yang tak ada laptop ke, tak ada komputer ke dekat rumah kan, tak boleh nak pergi cyber cafe ke, mungkin need further time for example. So please welcome. Please talk to me about this. Apa dia? Ada someone talking.
Ada dua soalan kat chat.
Okay, Hadri, what if the transaction by bona fide purchaser? Okay, yang tu kita nak cover satu fokus nanti kemudian. Ya? Yeah? So, yang tu dia ada specific punya discussion. Ya? Yeah? Nanti later on kita cover yang tu. Ya, yeah? Satu topik yang kecil juga lah. Kita tak go in depth sangat. Ya, yeah? Tapi there is a specific discussion by bona fide purchaser. Yeah, thank you for your question, Hadri. Okay, and then Muhammad Fauzan, can you re-explain DGI can exercise the rights of the bankrupt by assigning the interest to the third party? Who would probably be that third party? Yang ni ada yang doctrine of reputed ownership just now, kan? Okay, so for example, yang hire purchase tadi kan, dekat sini saya rasa. Under hire purchase, so there are situations yang ada goods which are under hire purchase. Generally yang DJI may choose what to do relating to the goods under hire purchase. Sebab goods under hire purchase tu generally pass to the DJI. Okay. So dia boleh, another situation, one option is that the DJI can exercise the rights of the bankrupt. Bankrupt tu ada rights over the goods tu kan, contohnya macam dia ada kereta under hire purchase atau machinery under hire purchase, so the bankrupt has right over the property. So maksudnya the property tu ada value, so in which kalau machinery ataupun mungkin truck ke ataupun macam crane for example, so dia boleh lantik orang lain untuk exercise the rights of the bankrupt tu, mungkin nak sewakan pula dekat orang lain yang gunakan, contohnya macam crane contohnya. Contoh sehari can be thousand of rent kan for a crane. So in that situation dia boleh lantik orang untuk manage the property and then to macam dalam proses hire dekat orang lain ke, ya. So third party tu can be anyone who may exercise the rights of the bankrupt person. Sama ada mungkin company lain ke. So this is the appointment is made by the DJI. Okay, so do I answer your question, Fauzan? Boleh tak? Anyone actually can be the third party that is at the appointment of the DJI.
Madam, third party tu maknanya dia DJI tu boleh lantik purchaser baru ke? Macam tu ke?
Goods under hire purchase tu tak semestinya purchaser, orang yang manage the property pun boleh. Assign the interest. Bila assign the interest ni dia bukan contoh dia ada okay, kalau purchase kita tengok situation, kalau dia pindahkan rights to the property, hirer boleh pindah rights dalam bentuk transfer terus. Saya rasa tak boleh. Hirer contohnya bila dia ada own the property, dia yang pegang property, contohnya machinery dia ada kan, dia lease machinery from another party, mungkin orang owner, the true owner pass the property, the machinery to the bankrupt person. Okay, and then the property can still macam yield value, macam ada profit kan, so dia boleh bagi orang lain untuk manage that property. Okay, so dia saya rasa it will always subject to agreement untuk agreement hire purchase antara true owner dengan hirer tu. Sebab saya tak fikir pula kita boleh dispose of the ownership of the property tu. Tapi dia cuma assign interest sahaja. Assign interest tu can be in the form of macam dia sewakan dekat orang lain pula, ataupun manage the property itself, for the benefit of the estate of the bankrupt person. So maksudnya bila kita dapat macam third party tu dapat, mungkin dia sewakan dekat orang lain, machinery tu, so dia yang manage, sebab DJI sebenarnya dia tak manage directly of the property, sebab dia akan hassle lah, it will be a hassle for the DJI to manage the property. So the third party tu bila dia dapat profit contohnya, dia akan bayar kepada DJI on behalf of the bankrupt person. Okay, can you see the situation? So because I don't think purchase by another third party is allowed under the agreement of hire purchase. Sebab harta tu will remain, the ownership tu, macam true owners tu, dia akan jadi macam, dia kena bayar balik sebenarnya dekat true owner tu as to the amount of the apa-apa rights of the property. Okay, sebab tu yang kalau dalam transaction yang option dekat sini, contohnya kalau if the estate has sufficient money, the DJI can continue to pay the installment and take the goods. Kalau dia bayar installment, at the end of the installment tu, the goods tu will belong to the DJI lah, sebab semua installment tu has been paid. Tapi in that situation tu, dia taklah macam deny the right of the true owner. Betul tak? Dia tak adalah orang tu terus hilang harta dia. Macam the true owner tu terus hilang harta dia. Tapi the law require that the true owner exercise dia punya rights tu, dia repossess the goods. Dia tak adalah macam dia terus rampas harta tu daripada true owner. So in such a situation, the DJI will honor the rights of the true owner. Orang yang pemilik asal tu. So dia taklah terus rampas, terus tak bayar installment of the goods. Okay, so yang ni kalau ada estate tu ada sufficient money, estate of the bankrupt person, property of the bankrupt person tu ada sufficient money untuk bayar. So kalau dia tak ada duit, so dia akan assign interest tu, mungkin dia boleh sewakan dekat orang lain lah, orang lain yang manage property tu. So dia akan bayar kepada DJI, DJI boleh bayar kepada the true owner as to the the interest of the owner tu sendiri, pemilik asal tu sendiri. Okay. So the discretion is at the DJI.
Kiranya perkara ni sebenarnya dia membantu si bankrupt tu jugalah kan?
Betul. Dia bantu bankrupt tu bila contohnya kalau ada interest dia, contohnya dia boleh yield more profit, so dia akan ambil itu sebagai macam tujuan, dia akan kumpulkan duit tu, tujuan dia untuk repayment of the debt. Okay, itu aim proses dia. So dia tak adalah deny the rights of the true owners dan juga deny of the rights of the debtor tu over the interest of the property. So the aim is only not to frustrate the aim of the bankruptcy law, that is for the repayment of the debt to the creditors. Okay. So mungkin nampak macam kejam pula ya, rampas satu orang tu sana sini kan. So that is actually macam that does not work that way. The rights of the true owners ni be exercised by them. Okay. Okay, that's it. Boleh. So ada biasanya soalan untuk yang bab relation back dan juga true ownership, refuted ownership tu is a favorite question for final examination jugalah, because dia punya nature ada banyak case kan. Okay. So saya akan share satu macam chapter lah yang saya tulis untuk for this part. I would like you to read, dan juga saya akan share soalan-soalan yang past year examination for you to consider how whether you understand the topic well or not. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much. So I leave the meeting. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
You, Doktor.